Welcome to Betrayal Affairs. In today's video, I'm going to tell you a story that I have never spoken out loud before. I thought he was just my neighbor, an ordinary man who happened to live next door, who waved when we crossed paths, who brought in my packages when I wasn't home. But that night, that single night, everything changed. And even now, I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself for what almost happened, or if I'll ever forget how close I came to ruining everything. It all started so innocently. I'd lived in this house for 3 years with my husband, Daniel. Our marriage wasn't bad, not really. But it wasn't perfect either. Daniel worked late, often traveling for his job, and I found myself spending more evenings alone than I wanted to admit. I'd gotten used to eating dinner by myself, watching TV by myself, falling asleep to the sound of an empty house. My neighbor, let's call him Evan, moved in about a year ago. At first, he was just the guy who lived next door. He was polite, helpful in small ways. When my car battery died, he jumped it for me. When Daniel was out of town, he offered to help carry groceries in. It was never anything more than kindness. At least, that's what I told myself. But there were moments, little flickers of something that I couldn't quite ignore. The way his eyes lingered on me just a second too long. The way he smiled, like he knew something I didn't. And I would push the thoughts away, because that wasn't me. I was married. I was committed. Then that night came. It was a Friday evening, and Daniel was out of town again. I remember staring at the clock as the storm rolled in, thunder rattling the windows, rain pouring down in sheets. At around 8 p.m., the power went out. Just like that, darkness swallowed the house. The hum of electricity cut off, leaving silence and the sound of the storm outside. I lit a candle and sat on the couch, trying to calm the sudden unease that rose in my chest. I hated power outages. Something about the darkness made me feel exposed, vulnerable, like the walls of the house couldn't keep the world out. A knock came at the door, sharp and sudden. My heart leapt into my throat. I froze, listening. The knock came again. "Hey, it's Evan." His voice called through the storm. Relief washed over me, followed instantly by nerves I couldn't explain. I opened the door, the candlelight flickering between us. He was drenched, rainwater dripping from his hair, his shirt clinging to him. He held a flashlight in one hand and gave me a sheepish grin. "Power's out on the whole block," he said. "Thought I'd check in, make sure you were okay." I forced a smile, stepping aside.
Come in.
"You'll get soaked out there." He hesitated, just for a second, then stepped inside. The door closed behind him, muffling the storm, but the silence between us was louder than thunder. We sat in the living room, candles casting shadows across the walls. He set his flashlight on the table, its beams sweeping the room. We laughed nervously about the storm, about how the neighborhood always lost power first. It felt normal. Safe. But then the conversation drifted. He asked about Daniel, about how often he was gone. I admitted more than I should have, that it was lonely sometimes, that the house felt too big, when it was just me. He listened, his gaze steady, his expression unreadable. "You deserve more than that," he said softly. My breath caught. The words were harmless on the surface, but the way he said them, the weight behind them, it felt like a confession. I looked away, staring at the flickering candle. "Don't say that." "Why not?" His voice was low, close. "It's the truth." I shook my head, trying to laugh it off, but my chest tightened. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. At one point, the thunder cracked so loud I jumped, and instinctively, I reached out. My hand brushed his arm. It should have been nothing. Just a reflex. But the jolt that ran through me in that instant was undeniable. He didn't pull away. Neither did I. Minutes stretched into hours. The storm raged, but inside, something else was brewing. Something dangerous, something neither of us named, but both of us felt. His eyes kept finding mine, and every time they did, my resolve weakened a little more. "Evan," I whispered at one point, my voice trembling. He leaned forward, his face illuminated by the candle. His expression was conflicted, torn. If I get any closer, I don't think I'll be able to stop. The silence after those words was deafening. My pulse pounded in my ears, my breath shallow. I should have ended it there. I should have stood up, blown out the candle, and told him to go home. But I didn't. I stayed. Frozen. Caught. His hand brushed mine on the couch, fingers barely touching, but it was enough to set fire to everything inside me. The line between right and wrong blurred until I couldn't see it anymore. And then my phone buzzed. Loud, sharp, breaking the spell. It was Daniel. I snatched it up, my hands shaking, my voice too bright as I answered. Hey. Yeah, I'm fine. Power's out, but I'm okay. Don't worry. Evan pulled his hand away instantly, his jaw tight, his eyes dark with something I couldn't name. When the call ended, the room felt different. Heavy with the weight of what almost happened. I should go, he said, standing abruptly. I wanted to stop him. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words stuck in my throat. I just watched as he grabbed his flashlight and walked to the door. Good night, he said softly, and then he was gone. I locked the door behind him, my hands trembling, my heart racing. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every look, every almost touch. The storm outside eventually faded, the power returned, but inside me, something had shifted. The next morning, I saw him outside, carrying in his trash cans. He glanced at me, just briefly, and in that look was everything we hadn't said. Everything we couldn't say. Life went back to normal, at least on the surface. Daniel came home, smiling, hugging me, asking about my week. I smiled back, pretending nothing had happened. Pretending I hadn't come so close to betraying him. But every time I passed Evan's house, every time I caught a glimpse of him in the yard, I felt it, the pull, the question that wouldn't leave me alone. What if the phone hadn't buzzed? What if Daniel hadn't called at that exact moment? What if I had let Evan close the distance between us? The thought haunts me still. Because some nights, when the house is quiet and Daniel is asleep beside me, I wonder if the storm really ended that night, or if it just began. And maybe one day I'll find out.